I think I gave a presentation 20 years ago at this club on my trip to the North and South Poles.
Yep.
And then I know I've done 2 or 3 here.
Yeah.
And
Did one on what happened after the World Trade Center.
oh yeah, and then I had an incredible, and I can't find those slides. I had all the slides of our transmitters on the World Trade Center that we took a week before it blew, before it was down. It was incredible, and we lost our engineer and all. Hugo, we got to dig around. They got to be in my closet somewhere. Hey, I have a carousel. If anybody, if we find it, there'll be a slide carousel.
If anybody has one,
does anybody have a way of converting it to digital?
Yeah,
Do we have a thing?
I built my own scanner.
That would be helpful. And then we'll give it to you, and then you'll give it to us. And at any rate, the reason I got stuck bothering you today is I bought a new toy, which is very interesting, and invited Hugo to help me. And my new toy is this. This is the RFinder. This is that new radio that is a digital 20 centimeter radio, and it's a cell phone. It's a cell phone. As a matter of fact, let me just back out of this. See, this is a regular cell phone with all this stuff. Then you click on the RFinder app, and there it is. This is the on-off for the radio, and then I can, and I have it programmed anywhere in the world I go. The beauty of this is if you travel a lot, and I used to, is that wherever, you land someplace, and it shows you all the repeaters in your area. You land in Germany. You land in Cleveland. Shows you all the repeaters, and you just click on the one that you want to go to, and it programs your radio instantly. I had Fred we were trying to get into the Norwalk repeater 2 meters from my house, and it has that funny offset. Fred spent 2 hours trying to program my radio. He couldn't do it. Hugo came over and spent a half hour. He did it finally. But it was, and I thought, and I couldn't do it at all. I mean, I'm not making fun of either of them. I couldn't do it at all. And I've got, you just heard Steve say, I've got 10 doctorates, and I couldn't program it. This thing, you just push the button, there it is. So I bought this expensive thing, which is quite amazing. And you're going to hear it demoed. Actually, I'll hand it around. You can play with it. If you drop it, you pay for it, okay? And if you really like me, you'll buy it from me. No. Then it turns out that the guy that invented this is in Long Island. He's a real genius. His name is Bob Greenberg. And Bob was one of the inventors of Easy Pass. He was a big deal a computer program software developer at IBM. He is now a consultant software developer. Wherever you call him up, and he answers the phone. And I've called him about 5 times. One time he said, I'm in Germany. Another time he said, I'm in Israel. Another time he said, I'm in an ambulance heading to the hospital. And I mean, it's the truth. And another time he said, I'm in the tow truck. My car just crashed, and I'm being hauled to the,
Bill, I'm sorry, I might have missed it. How much to pay for that trip?
700.
Okay, that's right.
Okay, 700. Okay, so at any rate, I think they're 800, but I got a discount because of charm and good looks. Let's be honest. So we're going to demonstrate this in a few minutes, but I thought it would be most interesting to have the inventor talk about it and explain what he's doing. He also developed and is in charge of the site called RFinder. It's the one that the ARRL, instead of, you don't get those little repeater books anymore. You go onto RFinder, and it's a worldwide database, which is what's in here, of all the repeaters in the world. It's linked to this, and this will program from that site. But he has the site, and you can just look it up and go online. This is a DMR digital radio. I wanted to learn digital. Hugo said, don't do it, it's not real ham radio. Fred said, don't do it, it's not real ham radio, but I thought it would be interesting because all these people are doing digital radio. You know, I've done it now. I'm not sure it's really ham radio, but I think you'll find it to be quite interesting. It's certainly an extension, major extension of our hobby, and it's one in which most of the youngest, hippest people are part of. So now, Fred, my technical support, is now going to see if we can get Bob Greenberg on Skype.
He's calling us.
Is he calling?
Yep.
Okay, here. Bob? Can you hear us? We can't hear you. Hold it.
We're adjusting volume.
Hello?
Hello, Tess.
Yeah, okay, we got you. Okay. This is I just did a 10-minute introduction of you. So, hold it a second here. Why are we getting feedback? Fred, don't touch that thing. Don't touch it. Okay. You're on a screen. Bob, can you hear us? You can hear me?
Yep.
Okay, good. You're on a big screen and you're looking at everybody. Can you see anybody?
Yeah, just tip the screen of the laptop down. Hey, everybody.
Okay, Bob, I'm going to let you take it. I just gave an introduction of you and said you're probably the smartest guy in the world. And then the second thing is, I said that every time I call you, you're either heading to the hospital, or you just had a wreck, or you're in Israel, or you're in Germany, or you're in some other China, and that you were one of the developers of EasyPass, and among other things. So this is your baby. Explain first RFinder, why you did that, and then explain this wonderful instrument, which I'm going to let everybody play with.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everybody. I'm actually across the pond from you guys. I don't know if you know this, the Wading River, out by Riverhead. Anybody know where Riverhead is?
Yep. Yes.
Yep.
Okay, cool. I was going to come visit, but Bill talked me out of it. But it's great to meet all of you, and a little bit about me. I've been a ham since 1976. I'm a third-generation ham. My son's a fourth-generation ham. So, I've been involved with amateur radio since I was a little kid. So, it's kind of like, it's not only in the blood, it's in my brain. Anyway, it's great to meet all of you, and thanks for having me in. So, RFinder, about 9 years ago, we, in my lab, we decided to figure out how to write an app. And I told my programmer, I said, download what you need to write an app, and I'll have it designed for you in a couple of days. And RFinder is what I came up with. I used to travel all over the world. Well, I still travel all over the world, but when I worked for IBM, I traveled all over the world, and trying to find a repeater was nearly impossible. And you had to scan through the band, and if you caught a squelch tail, try to figure out what the PL was, and it was very challenging. So I always said to myself, we really need a worldwide repeater directory, not just a directory from the league. So I used that as an opportunity to make an app and a database that worked worldwide, and that's where it started. So then I started partnering with some of the radio societies, like Radio Amateurs Canada first partnered with us because they didn't have their own app. They really kind of piggybacked on what the ARRL was doing, but they got no benefit from it. And then RSGB was next, and Deutsche Amateur Radio Club. So, and then after about 10 we had about 10 radio societies, and then the league called me up and said, "Hey, would you come up and talk to us?" So that's how it happened. About 3 years ago, they invited us up, and I convinced them to throw out everything they had and join up with us. So
this is the official site of the ARRL then, the official repeater site of the ARRL.
yeah, it's the official repeater directory of the ARRL. That's correct. And as well as 16 other societies. So, you know, and we have some more coming. We have Malaysia, Indonesia. I was actually just in Japan back in September, and we're just working out the documents now with some of the societies that were there. Thailand, there's one more, and for some reason it's slipping my mind, but and we're also working on China also. So we're just having a lot of fun. I never thought that, you know, the last part of my career would end up being in radio, in amateur radio and commercial radio. But it seems like that's what's happened, and we're having a great time doing it. Now, my grandfather, you guys, anybody ever seen the 5-band trap dipole? Anybody have one? Right? My grandfather, Art, W2LH, invented the original one. And if you look in October of 1956 at QST, you'll see the article. And if you flip through some of your older ARRL handbooks and antenna handbooks, you can see his original design in there. And when he was about ready to leave us, I asked him, why didn't you do anything with this stuff? And he said, well, it was a mistake. If you ever come up with something interesting, turn it into something. So this was also a mandate from my grandfather, Art. So if any of you guys ever knew him, he was an interesting guy. So anyway, so you know, so we got 170 countries of data. Excuse me a second. The repeater directory app works everywhere on Earth. Anybody have it on their phones? None of you guys have ever installed it. Well,
I've got it.
I guess
One of the people said he has it on his computer. I'll put it up here so everybody can see it. It's on my pad. So this is. I'll hand this around. Everybody can see RFinder here right now. Where is that feedback coming from? Okay. So this is what it looks like. I guess it's just this. Yeah, this is just this area. It's linked to the GPS in the pad, so it shows you all the repeaters in this area. I'll just pass it around.
I discussed RF, I given a talk on programming.
No, they're
on programming.
all right, so
your
about
radio.
who here is using DMR?
Yeah.
Both of us.
Yeah, we are.
You guys, 3, 4, okay, good. DMR is the hottest thing in amateur radio right now. And about 3 years ago, number 2 at the Deutsche Amateur Radio Club, Tomas, DF200, came to me and said, Bob, you must fix this code plug problem in DMR. And I didn't know anything about DMR at the time, and I said to him, well, what's the problem? He said, well, I program my radio for Stuttgart, and I go to Kuala Lumpur, the radio is a brick, it doesn't work. So you need to fix it. So I started looking for ways of fixing it, generating code plugs from our database. And it was very, very challenging to do because every radio has its own format of code plug. And they're all encrypted, or some of them are encrypted, they're all got, some of them are binary. I mean, it's very, very difficult to do. So I had an epiphany one morning, and the epiphany was, I know, we'll make an HT out of an Android. And that's what I did. So I started looking around and seeing if anybody else was doing that, and sure enough, in China, for the Chinese market, they were making Androids that were walkies, you know, with RF modules and with radio in it. So I started looking at different ones, and they all had a problem. They were all doing only DMR Tier 1, which obviously is not going to work on a repeater. It was a bit of a problem. Except for one company, and the company was called Tintelli, and they made a brand of radio known as Runbo. Anybody ever hear of the Runbos?
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
No? Okay. So I went to them and I said, look, I got this idea, I have this app, I'd like to use our app to control your radio in real time. And I spoke to them for about 8 weeks. They kept sending them videos. They weren't like giving me any kind of indication that they understood what I was trying to do. And then one day I said, are you able to watch these videos that I keep sending you on YouTube? Oh, no, we cannot watch YouTube. Oh, why did you say so? I found another way in China of sharing videos. And about a half hour after they watched the video, they said that they would support us. So they gave us the API, they sent us a radio, and within a week we had a decent prototype that was actually working. And if you go on YouTube and look for the RFinder Android, just search RFinder Android, you'll see a bunch of videos that we were doing as we were developing this whole concept. And now it just works great. I mean, you know, as was said earlier, I travel all over the world in parts of Alabama. And you know, if I land in Zurich, I can turn my radio on and immediately see what DMR machines are around me, and just a little point and click, choose what machine I'm going to connect to right off the screen. I never have to program the radio. All that programming gets pushed down every day, because every night at midnight our time, we go out on the internet and gather all the DMR data and bring it into one single database. Has anybody ever written a code plug?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yep.
Okay. I'm sure you know, like running a code plug, you got to look, you know, sometimes in 4 or 5 places to get all the information, because talk groups aren't documented well, and you know the data is really not aggregated. You're talking about 4 or 5 different DMR networks.
On the cell phone, this has a cell phone.
So,
Can that work all over the world?
So we aggregate it every night, and it gets pushed down to the devices. And this way, no matter where you are on Earth, it just works, period. And when I say anywhere on Earth, I was sitting and having breakfast on a veranda in Shenzhen, China, turned the radio on, and lo and behold, there were 2 Brandmeister machines in Shenzhen, and there was 2 over in Hong Kong. And I opened them all up, and it just worked. You know, so it's really been a lot of fun, and it actually, like, this stuff actually works. It's really kind of cool. So, I don't have the original radio. I don't have one handy. We came out with the H1 originally, which was very big. In fact, when I met with the jail system of Spain, they said that they could use it as a weapon. That's how heavy it was. They were like, you know, we don't have to send people out with a club anymore. They can just use their radio as their club. So it was quite heavy. And you know, and then the second model we came out was this. That's what you guys have there in the that you're passing around there in the audience.
Yeah, I'm passing it around showing my radio.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, I've been walking around so everybody can see it.
Right, so that was the M1. And the M1 is really, even to this day, is my favorite. I love this radio. It's really, really quite rugged. Have you ever been up to the Boxborough Hamfest?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. A couple of years ago, I was standing on a stoop, concrete stoop, talking to a bunch of hams, and the thing fell out of my hand and it bounced down 5 concrete steps. And everybody was gasping, and I picked the thing up and it was working perfectly. So that's just give you an idea of just how rugged these things are. I mean, they're really rugged, they're really waterproof, and they really work.
Yeah, I don't know why anybody'd make a thing that looks like this, but because it looks like it's strictly a government project, but it really is rugged. I've dropped this, you know, and it's indestructible, and the quality is amazingly good, amazingly good.
So, well, they made it originally for the Chinese military. We repurposed it for, you know, for the real world, you know. So this is the 3rd gen. This is called a K1, and this one is, you know, has a belt clip on it also, and is shaped more like an HT. But something I haven't mentioned yet is these are all cell phones. They're cell phones and DMR radios in one. So a lot of our users actually carry this as their daily carry, their normal cell phone, and they always have a radio in their hand. And people seem to enjoy that. So that's a K. This one has a battery on the back. Instead of the M, has a battery captivated in the center. So they can open it up so you can
The
see
battery
it.
lasts forever, by the way. It's how many amp hour?
Yeah, this one is a 6,200 milliamp hour lithium ion polymer.
So it goes forever.
Yeah, it goes. Yeah, it'll last well over a day for like a heavy user. You know, and so you guys are one of the first to see this. This is the prototype of the next model. It's about midway between the M1 and the K1 in size, and much faster processor, you know, Android processor, Android 8.1, and it's quite a nice unit. This one here. This one here will have, hopefully by February or March, we'll have a dual band version of this one. Right now, we're about to release the UHF version of this. But I convinced them, instead of making a VHF module, just make a dual band module and be done with it. So they're actually listening to me in China for some reason. I don't know. I don't know why.
Bob, will these cell phones work all over the world?
Yeah.
Will the
Yeah,
cell phone part of this thing work everywhere? Can I plug in a Spanish chip and it'll work? SIM card?
Absolutely. In fact, one of my hobbies has been, over the last couple of years, is whenever I get off a plane in another country, is to walk up to a kiosk and grab a SIM and stick it in and see if it works. And you know, whether I'm in Holland or Spain or France or Germany or Israel or where it just works, you know. So it's pretty cool. And you know, like I said, like this one here, I spent 4 days in Germany. I used my AT&T chip on this. When I was in, when I was in Germany, I grabbed the Vodafone chip for this one. I used it on Vodafone. And then on the way to Israel, I flipped in my AT&T chip. I used this in Israel on AT&T, on the AT&T SIM. So this is, and again, this is the prototype of the new device that's coming out. It's called an E81. I think. I might call it something else. But right now, that's what I think I'm calling it. So the Chinese keep saying they want to call it the B1 for Bob.
Oh,
So
it shows. It has a map, Bob. I'm showing the map. This thing has a map in it, and it shows you where all where the repeaters are in your area. So here's the Stamford. You see, it shows,
They don't have them all in the exact spot. Some repeaters need to be updated.
cool. Dude, hang on. I left something in the next room. Let me grab it.
Do you use that as a cell phone also?
Yes.
Do you use it?
Fred, solve that problem.
That's actually your radio.
Where's the audio engineer? Yeah? You guys see this?
You
Yep.
lost it.
No, we got it.
Those are too dark. There we go. So this is called the P1. And you can see on the top, it's got an SMA port, so you can mount an antenna on it. And this particular one happens to be a VHF only analog, because I was experimenting with the idea of turning this into a VHF marine tablet. It's very waterproof and it floats. But I was trying to get them to do the dual band in this so that we could actually do EPIRB on this, actually have it be an EPIRB. But you know, you have these great ideas, and sometimes you don't get full consensus from everybody. But that's what we try to do. So, but these are available also at UHF DMR.
Bob, instead of an EPIRB, think about an AIS. Do a version with an AIS. Do you guys know what that is?
Yeah.
Where you can track ships. That's easier and it's less official, you know.
Oh yeah? All right. Well, I'll think about that. So, this is actually my favorite tablet I've ever owned. I use this every day. I keep this actually by my nightstand, and I use it when I'm in, you know, when I'm watching TV, so I can browse the web and whatever. But it happens to be a great radio because I also mount it in my car. I use this as my mobile, along with one of these babies. This is a TDMA amplifier. It takes 4 watts in and puts 40 watts out.
Huh.
Yep. So you know, and then I attach this. Anybody use any diamond mobile antennas?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I happen to like the Diamond SG7900 because it's really loud. It's like one of the loudest mobile antenna I've ever owned. So when I attach this to the Diamond, it's like unbelievable. I mean, I can get straight to Stamford from the beach here and waiting wherever I'm short. So that's a cool option. So I actually run this as a mobile. I have another one of these that's UHF DMR that I use as a mobile with the amplifier in the car. So, and it works great. And point and click. And also I can use it as a GPS, you know, Google Maps or whatever. It's a full-blown Android. So it's kind of cool. So anyway, so I've had this really great adventure creating these crazy radios that, and I've had a really cool opportunity to work with these guys in China. And I get to sit down with the engineers and help design. I actually ergonomically designed this one with them, as well as, you know, a lot of the features in it. They didn't know what anybody know what promiscuous mode is?
Yes, yeah, we have that feature on my radio. There's a promiscuous button on this radio.
Promiscuous mode in amateur radio is important because you might get to a repeater and you might want to hear all the activity going on the repeater and seeing, you know, what time slot's busy, what time slot's empty, you know.
This is digital.
Huh?
I say it's digital, so where there are multiple things happening on one repeater at the same time, different
Right,
things.
exactly. So in other words, on DMR, who knows DMR? Who does not know DMR very well? You guys? All right. So in DMR, do you guys know that there's 2 time slots? You know that whole concept?
Yeah.
Okay, the time slots are on the time domain, obviously, time slots. And so it allows 2 different conversations on the same repeater simultaneously, which is kind of slick, right? So, but if you go onto a repeater, if you're not tuned to the busy talk group that's on the machine on that particular time slot, you're not going to know that there's any traffic. You're not going to have any idea. So promiscuous to us is very important. And I had to explain this to the Chinese because they were looking at me like I had 3 heads. What do you mean promiscuous? I mean, they speak English, you know, and they know the meaning of promiscuous, so, you know. They thought I was being inappropriate, I guess. I don't know. So anyway, so I explained it to them, and I explained it to them in terms of logic, because any of you guys here programmers or have programmed anything?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay.
Yep, we got them. Yeah, we got them.
So it's pretty simple, and they couldn't grasp the concept. I kept saying it's very simple. What you have to do is instead of testing to see if the talk group is equal to X and the time slot is equal to Y, then pass the audio. Instead of that, just ignore that logic and just say pass the audio on whatever comes out, and report to the radio what it's coming in on. So that's one of the most important things, that you know what talk group and time slot it's actually coming in on, not that you just hear it. So, you know, like I said, you know, I've traveled around the world quite a bit, and I was in Switzerland. I was driving to Italy last March. I think it was last March. And every time I went to a new machine, I saw that they had their talk groups configured consistently across all the machines in Switzerland. But I needed to know what slot was open, because I wanted to use worldwide 91 English, to make my calls. So I started checking to see with Promiscuous to see what was actually busy. I found that time slot 2 was almost always empty. So I just left the radio on 91 and on time slot 2, and told the radio that whenever I change frequencies, don't ask me for a talk group and a time slot. Just change frequencies and maintain the same thing. So we effectively created like a semi-automatic roaming mode in it. So as you're driving down 95 or whatever, if you want to stay on 3109, time slot 2, I think is what you guys use, or time slot,
yeah.
Probably time slot 2. That if you change frequencies, you can maintain the same contact just by changing frequencies, and the radio is maintaining the same talk group time slot. So we've done some very interesting things with this because it's fully malleable. I mean, we can make it do whatever we want. So pretty much, within the confines of the electronics. We've created really some cool workflows on this thing for Promiscuous, for instance, and it makes it very usable and very easy to use as you're traveling. And something else we've done in the new one, in the E81. Anybody have a DMR hotspot?
I've got one, but it doesn't work. This is a DMR hotspot, okay? It's like a little repeater, a little digital repeater. This is wireless into my router, okay?
Yeah, I like to call them micro repeaters personally. Yeah.
I'm mailing this to you, Bob.
Yeah, that's one. Here's another one. This one's a little bit bigger. Got a bigger screen on it.
It tells you who's coming in. It's amazing.
I got them everywhere here, but because sometimes I run one in the car. It's kind of nice to have one in the car. But one of the things we did in this one, in the new one, the E81, we made it so that Android has access to the digitized audio. And by doing that, we're going to put the hotspot right in here.
Oh.
And if you will not be able to get to a local repeater, it will route the packets through the LTE right over to the Brandmeister network, and then you'll blast out all the repeaters that's attached to that talk group. So, I think that's going to be a pretty cool feature. I think a lot of people are going to enjoy that very, very much, because you won't need to have the complexity of having a hotspot with you. This thing's already a very intelligent device with fully converged with GPS and internet and all that stuff. The only thing it was missing was a path from, anybody know what AMP 3000 is? Have you ever heard of that?
No.
It's the codec chip that's inside of every one of these DMR radios that takes your audio and digitizes it into a compressed data so that it can be sent out. And it's pretty interesting. It's not new. It's actually pretty old because D-Star has been around since the 80s. And D-Star used the original flavor of Andy. And anybody have a sat phone?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
You have a sat phone, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. If you have a sat phone, it's using the same audio compression as DMR to send your audio up to the satellites. So it's a very, very common audio compression algorithm or codec that really runs across. Anybody hear of NXDN? NXDN is based on AMBI. DMR is based on AMBI. C4FM. Anybody use C4FM? Easy System Fusion. That's all based on AMBI also. So so the same audio compression technology is used across all these different protocols. So once I have that, once I have access to that and access to the full datagram, we're going to then turn these new devices into multi-protocol. So we're going to start with C4FM. NXDN will be next because that's the path of least resistance. And then we're hoping to get D-Star on this at some point in the future also.
Hey Bob, we're gonna stop here and take some questions because we're now getting to the point where at least I'm only understanding about 10% of what you're talking about. So I think let's get some questions, and then I want to demo the radio. We're going to hang up on you so you don't have to be bothered. I'm going to demo this radio here and walk it around the room and let people play with my radio. And then I'm going to go home because my wife is waiting for me with 2 grandchildren. So, and they're going to go to bed pretty soon. So, anybody with questions for our genius guest? Yes.
You seem to be going through a lot of generations very quickly. When do you get to the end of it, or how do you keep up with what you're doing?
That's a good question.
All right, let me see if I got the question, because there was a little bit of
Feedback.
feedback. Because you're saying that I have a lot of generations.
Right, and you seem to be going very fast.
He said you're going through a lot of generations very fast, very impressive. How do you keep up with it, and when do you end? Is that what you said?
There's no end, I hope, because this is really quite interesting. I mean, it's a very interesting project. Well, you know, we're into 3 years now. We're going on our fourth generation. So we're doing about a generation a year. You know, hopefully I don't see any end in sight. What I'm really looking to do eventually is to bring together DMR over RF and DMR over LTE into a single platform. And I hope to have that actually operational within the year.
How does a consumer keep up with what he's doing?
Yeah, he asked a very good question. I'm a consumer. I bought this radio from you. It's a really fine radio, but it's expensive. And if all of a sudden 2 years from now it's obsolete, that would make me very nervous, if you know what I mean.
Well, yeah.
I mean, it's not a $50 radio, you know.
The thing is, I know, the thing is, like, your device is capable of DMR, okay?
Yeah, right.
So if you wanted to get the newest, you could resell that thing. It has resale value. I mean, I think these things go for 700, and the resale units are maybe 150 below that, you know, when people resell them right now. So it's not like, you know, it loses that much value. I mean, they really have been holding their value actually quite well. I would suspect that when this one comes out, it will probably drop, you know, the resale on the older units will probably drop about another $100, and probably about, you know, they'll probably be selling for around $550. So if you're worried about, like, you know, maintaining some level of, you know, in your investment in the radio, it does maintain value. It does, you know, maintain value, and you're going to have the enjoyment of using it for a couple of years, and then you'll sell it and you'll get the next later version. Somebody else that doesn't want to pay full boat will get, you know, get your hand-me-down. So, so it's not too bad, I think.
Well, and also you're supporting this interesting effort. I mean, this is all leading edge. I feel like I'm part of the club of supporting your genius in this crazy stuff. you know?
Well, I really appreciate that, and yes, that's true too, is when you guys pick up one of these radios, you're helping really fund this crazy project we've been doing and pushing it forward, so, and we really appreciate that, but you'll find that it's really fun. Like, DMR is really fun, but it can also be really frustrating if you have to reprogram your radio, you know, every time you want to take a trip, you know. These radios are really fun. They just work. No matter where you go on Earth, they work. If I go to Dayton, they work. If I go to Madrid, they work. If I go to Stamford, they work. So it's really a lot. It's really, I mean, quite frankly, I was just in the Holy Land at the beginning of December. I was in a conference in Germany, and one of my ham friends, 4Z5 Oscar Tango, invited me to Israel. I said, I'm in Germany. He goes, why don't you just get on a plane and get over here? There's $89 flights from Dusseldorf to Tel Aviv. I was out of there.
So,
Any
years
questions?
from now,
Yeah.
3 years from now, there'll be the cost of a Bofang?
He said 3 years from now, these will be the cost of a Bofang?
Well, maybe the original ones, but they'll still work. I mean, on DMR, you know, and we keep the database up to date. I mean, it's growing so fast. You guys have no idea. Back in, what was it? Oh, during Dayton, there was 60,000 DMR IDs. And this week, there was almost 115,000 DMR IDs in the network. So, and the repeaters are growing, you know, similarly. So, you know, DMR is, we're seeing D-Star machines being redeployed as DMR machines. We're seeing C4FM machines being redeployed as DMR machines. I mean, that's really how it's going. So, you know, it's not like you'll have no use, because DMR is DMR. That's what the protocol is. So,
Will you be at HRU?
I am actually going to go to HRU. When are you going to be there?
Well, all day Saturday.
I'm going. I'll be there.
We'll look for you.
Oh, that's
Okay.
excellent. Thank
Yes.
you.
On your, this dual band unit that you're working on, the E81, is this strictly DMR? Is there any FM?
The question was, on the dual band unit, is it strictly DMR, or is it, can you do FM? You can, by the way, you do FM on this as well.
Yeah.
It's not
This is,
just, this is their all mode.
Just so you know, any DMR radio has to have FM on it. And the reason why is because if you're transmitting analog, you're just modulating, you know, you're just modulating the audio onto an FM carrier. But if you're doing DMR or C4FM or D-Star or NXDN or P25, you're taking the audio, compressing it, and then sending it through a modem. And the output of that, anybody remember modems? Yeah. I mean, it's been a while. You guys are probably not old enough to remember them.
I do.
But there's actually a modem chip inside these things, and they take the audio, the digitized audio, they pass it through a modem, and turn it back into digitized, well, audio. They turn the data back into audio, but you know, digitized audio, and then they send that into the FM transmitter to be modulated. So there always has to be an FM transmitter involved. There always has to be an FM, you know, receiver also. Because then you take the digitized audio, modulated audio back in, and then pass it through a modem to demodulate it, and then pass it into the ambi chip to turn it into audio again, and it comes out the speaker. So it's there always has to be. But we're looking at adding other protocols. So for instance, C4FM uses exactly the same